What's happened is this is basically a civil dispute between a property developer and a tenant, and the tenant in this case is Woolworths. Now these cases are quite common in the courts. The courts are full of these kind of arguments between property developers and their clients. In this case it was a property developer called Brendan Blake who had a company called Northeast Solutions, and he was going to, the proposal was he would build a Masters store for Woolworths in Bendigo and then lease out the store to Masters for about 42 years. There was a contract dispute. There was a dispute over who would pay what in terms of the costs of developing the land and of building the site. Woolworths then walked away from the deal, walked away from the land. Now there's arguments from the developer that Woolworths unfairly walked away and breached the contract. So that's a court issue which the courts will decide. But what this has really done is opened up, has aired in public the early creation, the strategies, the conception of Masters within Woolworths. What it shows is the emails, the letters, crisscrossing Woolworths desks from executives to outside consultants, which shows the way that Masters was created and then rolled out. And what it shows is that Masters was rushed, that Woolworths was rushing Masters to get out there, that they wanted to quickly roll out 150 stores in 5 years to grab market share, to take the fight to Bunnings, but at the same time hadn't really fully developed the kits, the way that Masters would look, the way the store would look in the size and the scoping.
Right, so when shareholders look at the state of Masters today and the mistakes that were made and the inventory and the bad locations, does this start to paint a picture of how it went so wrong?
Yes, I think analysts and investors have complained for some time now that the conception and the rollout of Masters was probably not done too well. That could have been done better. The way the stores look, the cost of the store, the way the stores were positioned, the products within the store, the way it was run. And even actually Woolworths have admitted that, and a year or two ago Woolworths had a downgrade, said that Masters would not be as profitable as they thought it would be early on. They pushed back the date it would be profitable, rein in some of their rollout targets. So even Woolworths have admitted that it started off perhaps not in the best way. And analysts, I think, looking at these court documents and some of the emails coming out of the court would see just how rushed Masters was at the time.
Looking at those emails, is this a particularly embarrassing affair for Grant O'Brien? Is there an insight particularly in his role here?
Well, I think it certainly is unhelpful at this time as Grant O'Brien tries to rescue, I shouldn't say rescue, tries to turn around or improve the grocery part of Woolworths, the supermarkets, which is the key, which is the flagship of the business. Certainly he's got better things to do and to think about. But I think at the time, this is 6 or 7 years ago when this property dispute began, 6, 7 years ago, Grant O'Brien was running the Masters rollout. He was the head of business development and he was in charge of kind of creating and then rolling out Masters. He was then later tapped on the shoulder to be the Woolworths CEO. So he certainly was in the thick of it, and there were emails from him to other executives where some of those emails show that he was in a rush, that Woolworths was in a rush to get Masters started, even before some of the plans had been set down. So certainly Grant O'Brien is mentioned in the court case, and it comes at a difficult time because Grant O'Brien and his supermarkets boss, Brad Banducci, are trying to turn around the supermarkets business, which is the bulk of the Woolworths business, and at the same time facing strong competitors in Coles in terms of grocery, but also Bunnings in terms of hardware.
And just finally, is this a bit of a reminder of how much of an albatross this is for O'Brien particularly? Because you mentioned it was his baby, Masters really was his project, and even though now he is running the entire group, he can't really distance himself from the most problematic element of that group, and whether he likes it or not, he's really got to turn that around to justify his position.
Perhaps, yes. I mean, analysts and investors, some of them have been suggesting that. Certainly Grant O'Brien is closely associated with the Masters rollout. Probably him and the former CEO of Woolworths, Michael Luscombe, are the two executives most linked for the idea to go with Masters, to roll it out. The board as well, the Woolworths board, are also responsible. So certainly he's very close to Masters, and he needs it to be turned around. For the last 3 or 4 years, Masters have kind of rung up losses in total of about $500 million. We'll probably make a loss of another $200 million this year. It's a distraction, and I'm sure he would rather be doing other things. But they've got a new CEO in charge of Masters now, who's got runs on the board previously in turning businesses around in the UK, and the market now is waiting for them to improve. I should just say finally, Masters have rolled out a new format store in New South Wales, in Rouse Hill. It's a new format for Masters, which has just opened up in the last month or so. It's new in terms of the brands, the products, the way the store is laid out, and early signs are that store is doing quite well. It's doing very well. So that could be one answer to the problem of Masters, but certainly investors and analysts are waiting for this to be improved. And if not, then perhaps sold, written down, demerged, something.
Terrific. Eli Greenblatt, thanks very much.
Thank you.